Carol Marlow, Managing Director of P&O Cruises. P&O Cruises is Britain's leading cruise line. We take more British cruisers away than any other line. And so we have a very broad British market. We concentrate our product in making sure we satisfy those needs of British passengers, so we keep up to date with the trends and research with the different groups of British people. We have a variety of different cruises and different ships, and of course we need to evolve and to meet the needs of our passengers going forward. So we're constantly researching what they'd like from a holiday. So we change our itineraries, we evolve our itineraries. We have a number of different partnerships with British brands. So we have cruises that are linked in with Strictly Come Dancing. For next year we've got cruises with Classic FM, and we have some celebrity chefs that we work closely with. So Marco Pierre White, Ollie Smith, the wine expert. So there are different sorts of cruises that our passengers can take, and we evolve those, we refresh them, and so there are different things happening for our loyal passengers. And we've got 3 ships going into refit over the next year or so. And we can add back then facilities from the newer ships that have worked particularly well into the ships that are slightly older. So we have, for example, Ollie Smith's wine bar on Azura, which we're going to retrofit back onto Ventura. And we have an open-air spa called The Retreat, which we're going to refit onto Ventura as well. We've got single cabins that are going into Arcadia and also Ventura in the next few months, as we've seen a trend towards single travellers. And so we spend also on our cabins and on our soft furnishings to make sure that they're fully up to speed. So we've got more or less about £1 million being spent on Oceana and her cabins coming up. So we make sure that the ships are refreshed, the itineraries vary, the partnerships are regularly refreshed in the short term. And then in the longer term, well, in 2015 we have a new ship joining the fleet. So we're working on that at the moment, the designs for that ship. She's going to be the first of a new generation of ships for P&O Cruises, so she will combine the best of what we have on our ships now, our signature items across the fleet, and also some new and exciting innovations that we're going to be putting into the product. So we think she'll be a fabulous ship. The cruise industry is still growing, which is the great news. I think we found that the real boom in cruising started mid-90s in the UK, and it's continued ever since. So we've seen, for example, last year we saw a 5% growth in number of people cruising from the UK, and so people are still definitely wanting to take a cruise in spite of our recession. We think this year probably the number taking a cruise will be around the same as last year, which is around about 1.7 million cruisers. There are more cruisers now from the UK than there are skiers, which is interesting. And we've seen that, as I say, grow over the years. I think, as we've seen in cruising, the industry as a whole has to make sure it understands what passengers want or what customers want from holidays nowadays. Things are changing, people have different needs, they're more experienced travellers, and we have to keep abreast of their needs and desires and make sure we offer holidays that match those needs. I think another very important part is about value for money, and that's where cruising really does score very highly. And so I think across the wider industry, we've got to be bearing that in mind. People do have a limited amount they can spend. They want to take their holiday, but they want to make sure they have excellent value. And with cruising and with P&O Cruises, we see our repeat rates growing, and we see lots of people coming back to us time and time again because of the great value of cruising. And I think that's something that the wider industry has to take on board. And that's about controlling costs and making sure that we can keep the costs reasonable, so that our prices are reasonable, so that people come back time and time again. I think an issue in the industry for all of us is the cost of fuel and the cost of power, and how we go forward to make sure that we are keeping our costs very much under control, to keep our prices under control for our passengers. So we have to look creatively at different ways of conserving fuel and making sure that we do that, whether it's through reducing in cruise the speed of our ships, or looking at ways that we can reduce the amount of power that we use. And I think that's the same in airline industry and also in hotels. And so that's an important element of what we do going forward. I think we also need to look to our planet, and we need to make sure that we conserve the wonderful different destinations that we have. So we responsibly act as we take passengers to visit these different places. And so responsible tourism, I think, is very important. We have a number of what we call green excursions, of places that people can visit and get an appreciation of what happens in the different countries we visit, and passengers are very interested in that. So I think working with our environment, working with our passengers and controlling the amount of fuel that we use has got to see us move forward in a very successful way.